You ever wake up one morning and realize your whole life just exploded behind your back? Like everyone you trusted decided to rewrite the story of who you are without even telling you? That's what happened to me. One day, I had a steady job, a close-knit family, and a plan. The next, I was being treated like a criminal by the people who raised me, all because of one outrageous lie. It started with a text. It was a Saturday morning, I remember, because I had just come back from a long bike ride down the coast. I was sweaty, hungry, and not at all ready for the chaos that was about to land in my lap. My phone buzzed, and there it was. A message from Talia, my brother's longtime friend, someone I barely ever talked to. "We need to talk. I'm pregnant. It's yours." I thought it was a prank, or maybe a wrong number. Because let me be 100% clear, I had never been with Talia, not even close. We grew up in the same circle, but there was never anything romantic between us. Not even a hug that lasted longer than a second. So I stared at that text, trying to understand if it was some kind of joke. I replied the only way I knew how. "Talia, what are you talking about? That's not possible." She answered immediately. "Don't pretend like you don't know. You left me alone in this." That's when my stomach dropped. I knew she'd been struggling with mental health issues for years. Depression, anxiety, maybe even more. My brother Chris never liked to talk about it, said it wasn't our business. So I didn't pry. But now I was looking at a situation spiraling fast, and I was caught dead in the middle of it. I tried to keep calm. I told her there must be a mistake, that we never slept together, that I wasn't the father. But she just doubled down. She wouldn't take a prenatal paternity test. She kept insisting that I had to do the right thing, that I abandoned her and our child. It felt like being thrown into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. At first, I thought if I just stayed rational, things would calm down. But within a few weeks, the lie had already infected my entire world. She told her parents, then Chris, and then, somehow, my parents. That's when everything really blew up. Let me tell you something about my family. We're old school, traditional, church every Sunday, family dinner on Fridays, prayers before meals. My parents, especially my mom, believe in personal responsibility and owning your mistakes. So when they heard the story, they didn't even hesitate. They didn't ask questions. They believed her. No matter what I said, no matter how many times I explained that I never touched her, that it wasn't possible, they looked at me like I was some kind of disgrace. My dad called me a coward. My mom cried in the kitchen, asking how she raised a son who runs from his responsibilities. It was humiliating and heartbreaking. I tried to show them logic. I told them I'd never even been alone in a room with Talia. I reminded them that I'd been out of town the entire month she claimed to have gotten pregnant. I had receipts, hotel confirmations, even photos. None of it mattered. My parents kept pushing. "Take care of the child. Do what's right. Be a man." They wanted me to play dad to a baby that wasn't mine. And the more I resisted, the angrier they got. The turning point came at a family dinner. Chris had invited us all over. I thought maybe it would be a chance to clear things up. I was wrong. Talia was there, visibly pregnant, and my mom was fawning over her like she was already part of the family. My dad didn't say much, just kept staring at me like I was garbage. And when I tried, once again, to say, "This isn't my child," my mom stood up and said, "If you deny this baby again, Marcus, don't bother coming home." They disowned me right there, over lasagna. After that dinner, I walked out of Chris's apartment and didn't look back. I waited on the sidewalk for my rideshare like a stranger, while inside my own family was celebrating a lie. It was raining, fitting. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that being disowned meant I could finally move on, but no, things only got darker from there. The next few months felt like living in an alternate universe. Talia refused to take a paternity test, claiming it was traumatizing and an insult. I tried to take legal steps, but without her consent, there wasn't much I could do until after the birth. Meanwhile, the town I'd lived in my whole life began to turn cold. People I'd grown up with started whispering, avoiding eye contact, looking at me like I was some kind of deadbeat. Even my coworkers started acting weird. I could feel it in meetings, in the break room, people watching me, judging me. Someone must have spread rumors. Maybe Talia, maybe my parents, probably both. The worst moment came when I ran into Ms. Sheesh Henderson, my high school biology teacher, at the grocery store. She looked at me with such visible disappointment and said, "Marcus, I hope you're doing the right thing." Then she walked off without giving me a chance to reply. It was like I didn't exist as me anymore. I was just this story, a villain in someone else's version of events. And then came the baby. I didn't even know she had gone into labor. Chris didn't tell me. My parents didn't tell me. I found out because someone tagged me in a photo on social media. There she was, in a hospital gown holding the newborn, my mom beside her smiling, holding a balloon that read, "Welcome, baby girl." I stared at that image for a long time. I had to do everything myself from that point on. I found a lawyer, filed a petition for a court-ordered DNA test. I had to wait until the baby was born, and even then, there were more delays. Talia still tried to block it, but eventually, a judge forced the test. When the results came in, I was shaking so hard I nearly dropped the envelope. 0%. 0% chance. I was the father. The paper felt like a weapon in my hand, not because I wanted revenge, but because for the first time in nearly a year, I had truth, real, undeniable, written proof that I wasn't crazy. I sent the results to my parents. I didn't say anything, just forwarded the PDF to my mom's email. Within minutes, my phone lit up like it hadn't in months. Calls, texts, missed FaceTimes. I didn't answer a single one. The apologies came fast and empty. My dad sent me money, cash, as if that was supposed to undo the humiliation, the abandonment. My mom left a long voicemail, crying, begging me to come to dinner. "We didn't know," she said. "We thought we were doing what was right." No, what they did wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. They believed a lie over their own son. They didn't ask questions, didn't give me the benefit of the doubt. They picked their narrative, and when it fell apart, they wanted me to pretend it never happened. I couldn't. And just when I thought the chaos had peaked, Talia doubled down. She started telling people I had faked the test, that I had bribed someone, that the lab must have messed up. She went around spinning this wild theory that I'd used connections to get off the hook. Connections? Me? I'm an office clerk in a logistics firm. I barely know how to order my own lab tests, let alone rig someone else's. But it didn't matter. In a town this small, whispers grow into gospels. I got dirty looks at the gas station. One lady told me to step up for my daughter in front of a full checkout line. I didn't even respond. I was too tired. The weight of it all was crushing. My parents were trying to worm their way back into my life. Talia was spiraling deeper into delusion. And even Chris, who had been my best friend and brother all my life, hadn't said a single word to defend me. He just stood by, silent. I realized then that none of them, not one, had ever really seen me, not as a person, just as a projection of what they needed me to be. So I cut them off. I blocked Talia from every platform, changed my number, told my parents in a single email that I wasn't coming back, not now, not soon, and maybe not ever. I didn't owe them forgiveness, not after everything. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting match, no big speech, just silence. And for the first time in nearly a year, peace. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Lie exposed, damage done, curtain closed. But some people can't stand losing control, and my parents were those people. It started slowly. A few old friends reaching out, some I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey man, your mom's been worried about you," one wrote. "She said you're going through something." Another message, "Maybe try talking to them? Life's too short, you know?" I knew exactly what was happening. My parents weren't trying to make amends. They were trying to rewrite the story again, this time with me as the troubled son who had shut them out unfairly. Then they went even further. They contacted my boss. I still don't know how they got his number. Maybe through some old church contact or social media. But one afternoon, he pulled me into his office, concerned. They said you might be struggling mentally, he told me. I just sat there, stunned. They weren't just trying to get back into my life. They were actively sabotaging it, undermining me, making me look unstable, and that's when I knew I had to do something more permanent. I got a lawyer, filed for a restraining order. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd need one against his own parents. But when the people who claim to love you start endangering your career, your peace, your mental health, you have to draw the line somewhere. It was a messy, draining process. Paperwork, court hearings, awkward silence between moments of anger. My parents cried in front of the judge, said I was destroying the family, claimed I was mentally influenced by outsiders. The judge didn't buy it. The order was granted. They were legally barred from contacting me or showing up at my home or workplace. I thought that might be the true end, but it wasn't. A few weeks later, someone keyed the word liar into the side of my car. I never got proof it was them, but I didn't need it. Only a handful of people even knew where I lived, and they were at the top of that list. That night, I installed cameras around my apartment, changed my parking spot, told a few trusted friends what had happened. I was exhausted. I wasn't living, I was bracing for the next wave, the next phone call, the next twist in this absurd, exhausting saga. But slowly, it all faded. The silence held. No more emails, no more late-night knocks, no more surprise messages from people they'd recruited, just quiet. And in that quiet, I started healing. I reconnected with friends who had stuck by me, started therapy again, focused on work, health, rebuilding a routine. I even took a solo trip up the coast, camped in Big Sur for a weekend, just to breathe. There were moments of guilt. Of course there were. That voice in the back of my head whispering, "They're still your family." But I'd learned something crucial. Family is not an excuse for destruction. If someone poisons your life, even if they share your blood, you have the right to walk away. A few months later, I heard from my cousin Melissa, someone who had stayed neutral through the chaos. She told me my parents were planning a big family reunion, and they were telling everyone that I'd be there. It was a lie, another manipulation. They were trying to stage a public reconciliation, not because they wanted to repair things, but because they wanted to look like they had. I didn't go. Instead, I wrote them a final message, short, clear. Stop using me to fix your image. If you ever want a relationship, it starts with honesty, not manipulation. Until then, stay away. No reply. And that was the true end. It's been a year now, a full year since the accusation, since the collapse, since I stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed. I still have scars. I probably always will. But they don't bleed anymore. I've learned that peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to walk away. Maybe one day they'll change. Maybe not. But I won't be waiting. I've got a life to live, and I'm living it on my own terms.